Alright, chapter 2.1b is about one-step equations. This chapter covers a concept that is used in the following classes: Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry, Calculus, and anything beyond that point. So this is a very important chapter. You've got to make sure we get it down, otherwise it's going to be a tough life for you. Our last chapter showed us how to substitute a number for a variable and find its value. This chapter here is going to show us how to go the opposite direction, where we will find the number that is being used based on its value. So many of you are going to look at the first couple of sections as too easy or too simple. Hopefully that doesn't do it, but what people tend to do is they start to skip over steps and not follow basic directions, and because this is the fundamental portion of it, and then the work gets hard, they don't know what they're doing because they lost their fundamentals in the first couple sections. So as easy as the first couple sections may seem, please just remember to keep doing the work that is necessary. The good news is on your Math Excel you really have no choice, because I'm forcing you to show the work, but just make sure you stay patient with it. Make sure you keep learning what's there. Essential question is, why is showing how to find the solution more important than the solution itself? And that's because mathematics communicate ideas through equations and solutions. The proof or correctness or incorrectness, the proof of correctness or incorrectness is found in a work. In other words, if someone comes up with a way to, and it happens where people find equations that help just different ways in the world, the only way you can prove that it's right is for people to see the work. Also, if you have a mistake, it can only be identified if we can actually see how you got your answer. So while you're working on your work through this section and through this chapter, actually through the rest of your year especially, if you make a mistake, don't erase it or scribble it out. Bring it up to me so I can actually try to see what you did and figure out what you might have done wrong. The first step to solving equations is recognizing the operation that is being illustrated. So make sure you write these operations below it, because you need to understand how to visualize or identify what it is. When you have x plus 3 equals 6, first off, what people tend to do is they draw a line separating the two sides. This 6 has nothing to do with anything, and so you're looking at a 3 that is attached to x through addition. Once again, on the second one, if you draw that line and forget about what's on the other side, you have x minus 4. Again, these are attached through subtraction. If you draw your line again and ignore the 72, this 9x, remember, if there's no symbol, this is attached through multiplication. Sorry, it doesn't really say multiplication, but I tried. And then if you ignore this, you recognize a fraction, and this fraction represents the operation of division. And so as long as you can identify what operation is there, you should be okay. It doesn't matter where the variable is. Your job is to choose carefully. So again, if you have this situation here when you split it, and this is on that side, you have x plus 5. That would be your addition. If you look at this one, and 81's over here with your 3x, the 3 is attached to x through with no symbol. That would be multiplication. And again, doesn't matter if when you split it, the x is on the right side over here. You have x over 6, which represents division. Once you identify the operation, you now have to use its opposite to take a step in solving. So the opposite of addition, as we know, is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of multiplication is division, and the opposite of division is multiplication. We know these things, but now we have to start applying them in our work to make sure that we can actually get the right answer and find out what's missing. So our base examples here, just kind of make sure we got it, is here. So you have x plus 35 equals negative 96. Now the way you're going to do it on Math XL is different than the way you're going to do it on paper. On paper, you're going to show it based off of these base examples. I'll show you what Math XL is going to do in just a little bit, but for right now, looking at this, you have x plus 35, which is through addition. That is a positive 35, which means that to move it, you need to put a negative 35 or subtract 35 from both sides. The rule of algebra is whatever you do on the left, you have to do on the right. I don't care about the 96. I am moving the 35 over by subtracting 35. The 35's cancel out because positive 35, negative 35 equals 0. X comes down, and again, if necessary, go ahead and type this in, negative 96 plus negative 35, getting the answer of negative 131. And that would be x. Now you can check that out for yourself by plugging negative 131 in here. Negative 131 plus 35 should equal negative 96, which it does, as you can see. The second example, again, if I split that down the middle, x minus 84 equals negative 106. The side that matters is this side. We have a negative 84 which is being subtracted. So what we're going to do is add 84 because the opposite of subtraction is addition. Again, you must add 84 to both sides. The 84 cancels out because negative positive 84 equals 0. X comes down. Negative 106 plus 84 is what we're looking at here. And that gives us negative 22. You need to make sure you're typing these things in your calculator, because if you don't, then what's happening is you're watching but you're not learning how to do it. Again, to check it out, let's put the negative 22 back in here. Negative 22 plus negative 84 gives me negative 106, which is exactly what's over there. It tells me that my answer is right. The third one, 17x equals negative 408. Again, the number attached to x is 17, and it's attached to multiplication. The way you're going to write it on paper is by making your fraction division, which is putting both of those sides over 17. That means divided by 17. 17 divided by 17 is 1x or just x. What happens is those 17s cancel, just like on your test where the n's canceled out or the letter on top and bottom canceled out. But either way, x comes down equaling, and then you just do negative 408 divided by 17, which is negative 24. Again, to check that out, take your negative 24. 17 times negative 24 is negative 408, which is what it should be. This one here, x divided by 32 equals negative 35. Again, ignore that 35, looking only at the 32. We have to move the 32 when it's divided. So what we will do is multiply by 32. Again, this is division. So you show multiplication by 32 by putting a 32 above both sides in parentheses. This means 32 times x. This means 32 times 35. But what happens again once I put a 32 on top and it's also on bottom is those two things cancel out. X comes down. 32 times negative 35 is negative 1120. Yes, I'm using big numbers because I want you to have to trust the process, not try to do these in your head. And so I'll check negative 1120 divided by 32, which is negative 35, which is what I'm supposed to have. Do not be afraid to use your calculator if you have issues with accuracy. Just be sure you practice programming your calculator appropriately so you do not type in the wrong information. The general rule about a calculator is if you type it in the wrong way, the calculator will give you the wrong answer, but it actually gave you the right answer because you typed it in the wrong way. So practice typing it in, practice doing all that stuff so you do not get caught up typing something in wrong and then paying the price for it. Looking at some examples real fast before we get ready to go. 35 equals x plus 87, split down the middle. That doesn't matter, we're looking at who's with x. X is with 87, so what we're going to do is subtract 87 from both sides because that is a plus 87. Get rid of that 87 because it's gone. X comes down over here. That's very important on your work today because if X is on the right side and you put it on the left side, the computer is going to mark you wrong. The X came down on the right. 87 is gone. 35 minus 87 is what we have to figure out now, which is negative 52. I'm not going to check these, but you know how to check them. Take the negative 52, plug it in, and see if you get 35. That's the easiest way to check your math. Second example, 25 equals x over 13. Again, first recognize that this is division, and the way we offset division is by multiplying by the number on the bottom, which is 13. Because I have a 13 on top and bottom, they both go away. X comes down. I now have to do 25 times 13. Could have actually done that in my head, but I got lazy. 325 is your x. Again, if you want to check that out, plug in 325, see what 325 divided by 13 is, and see if you get the answer of 25. That works especially on a multiple choice test whenever the answers are in front of you and you don't know how to solve. Just take the answer, plug it in until it's true, and you'll be able to find the answer that way. Now careful on this one because these are where it gets tricky. You have negative 8 plus x equals 15. And even though you see a plus, it doesn't mean that they're going through addition. What you notice is this 8 is a negative 8. And you do not cancel out a negative 8 with a negative 8. You cancel out a negative 8 with a positive 8 on both sides. So you need to be careful to look at whatever that is. Again, the x comes down on the left. 15 plus 8 I know to be 23 And again, we know it works. If you did negative 8 plus 23 in your calculator, you would get 15. 488 equals 61x. Again, 61 is attached to x, so we must divide by 61 on both sides. Again, that's through multiplication, so we do division. 488 divided by 61 is 8. What? I guess it is, yeah. Sorry. I was thinking of something else. Even if you have a fraction, just use your common sense. Here we have 3/4 x equals negative 12. And here's what's weird. This is 3/4 times x equals negative 12. And even though you may not know how to do it in your head, you do have a tool here that can help you out. So what we're going to do is divide both sides by 3/4, because of 3/4 on top, 3/4 on the bottom cancels out. X comes down. All I have to do now is learn how to use my calculator to type negative 12 divided by 3/4. I get the answer of negative 16. And if you want to check it, just do 3/4 times negative 16 and see if you get negative 12, which you can see you do. That means we got the right answer. Now there's another way to do that we'll talk about in two-step equations, but for right now, if it's 3/4 times x, you could easily just divide by that 3/4 and go on about your business. Last one, negative 34 equals 19 plus x. This x here is with a 19. I want to get rid of this 19, but again, you have to be careful. You have to ask yourself, what kind of 19 is this? And it's positive, which means you will want to subtract 19 from both sides. Negative 34 minus 19 gives me negative 53, and that is equal to your value of x. Again, you can plug that in and go from there. The thing you got to be careful on is on your Math Excel, you are going to have questions that say something like x plus 5 equals 11, let's say, and you're going to have boxes here and boxes here. And what you're going to do is simply put the opposite operation, which in this case you'll put minus 5 in this box, minus 5 in that box. Because those will go away, you put x in this box and 6 here. That's it. With your subtraction or addition, you'll do the same thing. So x minus 6 equals 15. And again, you'll have those boxes here and more boxes here. And what you'll do is you'll say, to get rid of the 6, I must add 6. So you'll put a literal plus 6 in the boxes. X comes down over here. 21 comes down over here, and that is how you'll get those right. Now it's tricky with the other two because it doesn't match how we do on paper, but I just need to make sure you understand how to move it. So when you see something like 10 equals 5x and the boxes are here, you are not going to put over 5. You're going to use the literal division symbol, and the true division symbol divided by 5 and divided by 5, which of course 10 divided by 5 is 2. And the only thing that comes down over here is x. So again, you are going to have to use this symbol in that box, otherwise it doesn't work. And then when you have 3, let's say x over 3 equals 11, you will again have boxes down here to make sure you at least see what's going on. Here you will actually use the x, or the times 3, and if, again, that should be at the bottom of your part there where all the fractions and things are. You should see the multiplication. So again, 3 is on the bottom, so you'll multiply by 3, multiply by 3. X comes down with 33. Now there are examples on the chalkboard underneath that magnet where it says save. So if you ever run into a question that you can't seem to answer or figure out, I have a lot of different types of answers up there for you to kind of look at and make sure you know what's going on. If all else fails, just go ahead and skip that problem and ask me about it tomorrow. Outside of that, just go into your Math Excel, do section 2.1, and get as much as you can, because we are moving on to 2.2 tomorrow. Good luck.